your nation, your province, your southern Alberta. From the heart of Lethbridge, it's Bridge City News Weekend Edition with Jeanette Roche.
Hello, thanks for joining us for our week in review. Putting a hot meal on the table has become increasingly difficult for many people. Late Tuesday afternoon, help arrived in Lethbridge in the form of $100,000 worth of food from a food rescue. BCN's Naveen Day has the details.
Each family in this long line at Highland Park Townhomes is about to receive at least $200 worth of food items donated from various vendors. This is thanks to organizer Jackie Duhasek, founder and director of Alberta Food Rescue and Distribution. Her organization recently partnered with Main Street Equity Corp, a property management company that provides low-cost housing in Alberta. Duhasek says inflation is rising so fast, most families can't keep up.
If you can imagine families that are funded by government or that are publicly funded, whichever way, from EI and disability and whatever they're getting for funding to fund their homes, those dollars have never even increased. So we have families that are living with no extra dollars, but the cost of living is intense. And that is why we're working with Main Street.
It's an amazing partnership. We're not just about quality housing, we're about giving back to the people that are living in our housing. Community outreach, like Jackie said, this is a full community here. Everyone's having fun. We're here to support the people that are living in our properties.
Duhasek adds that no one should feel any shame attending her events. She says they are not organized simply to address food vulnerabilities. The events are also about mental health.
Do you see everybody out there? They're all talking. They're all visiting. It's like a neighborhood block party, right? And they're all getting, and not one person out there is ashamed because we're not a food bank. We're a community food rescue. We're all coming together, and everybody's houses are going to start smelling like this amazing beef that came from Hormel. And everybody's going to start cooking potatoes, and all the kids are going to start running around with certain vegetables. It's going to be great. It's all mental health related.
Duhasek says she plans to scale up her operations and bring on corporate sponsors for her future events. For Bridge City News, I'm Naveen Day.
Thanks so much, Nav. If you've ever visited the town of Vulcan, Alberta, you would probably notice a particular theme that runs throughout the community. BCN's Angela Stewart went on a tour with the town's mayor and discussed how they adopted everything from Star Trek.
We're, kind of internationally recognized.
Almost 2,000 people populate this small southern Alberta town. Known for its oil and gas and farming community originally, Vulcan has become a worldwide tourist attraction as the town chronicles the series of Star Trek.
Leonard Nimoy was from the planet Vulcan, so why not capitalize on that?
And that's exactly what happened. The first piece constructed was the town's replica of Star Trek Enterprise.
It was built in 1985. The FX6 is our airport signia, like that's our call letters. This would be one of their ships, theoretically one of their ships in the movie Star Trek.
When you make your way around the starship, you'll see the saying "Live long and prosper," written in Klingon.
And our street out front is called Klingon Way. We renamed the street itself to represent the Klingons. Originally, it was supposed to be a space station.
Although does not represent a specific space station from the series, the Vulcan Tourism and Trek station built in the late 1980s features a variety of things inside for tourists.
We did have a meteor land not too far from here, so there's a chunk of this meteor in the facility. It's got a green screen so you can get your picture taken. There's memorabilia for Star Trek.
Over the years, the town has developed pieces that are based off the series, including the streetlights and the crosswalks. Well, besides the tourism center and the spaceship, probably one of the coolest things you'll see if you visit the town of Vulcan is this bronze statue of actor Leonard Nimoy, which also includes his handprint.
He came to our community in 2010, and so at that time there we had him allow us to have his imprint, or his hand imprint.
The town does continue to build off the current theme with the hopes of adding more stuff in the future. And in the famous last words of our good buddy Spock here, live long and prosper. For Bridge City News, I'm Angela Stewart.
Thanks, Angela. I love that saying too. I can't really do the hand thing. I thought the ship would be bigger too. Well, officials at Lethbridge County passed a new bylaw in which it will be combining all of the county's previous fire-related bylaws into one comprehensive piece of legislation for clarity and ease of use. They include the bylaws pertaining to stubble burning, fire bans, fire permits, and Lethbridge County Fire Services. There are some changes to the content of the bylaw, which includes minimum fines for violations increasing from $100 to $250 and authorizing county administration to impose fire bans and restrictions. More information on those changes can be found on the Lethbridge County website. We'll be right back after this short break. Stay with us. It seems that Canadians love Alberta so much that thousands more are moving to the province. According to a recent report by ATB Economics and Stats Canada, in the first 3 months of 2022, 5,351 more people moved to our province from other regions of the country. That was the largest gain of any province in Canada. The second highest was BC with 3,051 new residents, and Nova Scotia with 2,419. Ontario lost the most residents at 11,566, followed by Manitoba at 2,229. The study said Alberta's improved economic conditions are likely key factor in the recent turnaround in net interprovincial migration. Calgary Conservative MP Michelle Rempel-Garner has decided not to seek the United Conservative Party leadership. The longtime politician was mulling over taking a crack at becoming Alberta's new premier, but instead will focus on helping Patrick Brown in his CPC leadership bid. Rempel-Garner has been a federal Conservative MP since 2011 and gained a reputation as both an outspoken booster of Alberta and someone who has also fought for LGBTQ rights. The field to replace Jason Kenney is pretty crowded already. It includes former Finance Minister Travis Toews, along with former leaders of Alberta Wild Rose Party Brian Jean and Danielle Smith. The United Conservatives will choose their new leader on October the 6th. Alberta Premier Jason Kenney made a cabinet shuffle. The UCP leader had to bring new ministers on board to replace some of those who had to give up their portfolios as they are seeking the party's leadership seat. Some of the more notable changes include having Jason Nixon replace Travis Toews as finance minister. Whitney Isaac becomes the new Minister of Environment and Parks. Calgary Southeast MLA Matt Jones becomes the Minister of Children's Services. Prasad Panda moves from Minister of Infrastructure to Minister of Transportation. Calgary Currie MLA Nicholas Milliken becomes the new Minister of Infrastructure, and Fort Saskatchewan MLA Jackie Armstrong Hominick becomes the Associate Minister of Status of Women. The UCP will choose its new leader on October the 6th. The Alberta government announced a non-repayable support program called the New Beginnings Bursary. It's for low-income students to help reduce barriers to post-secondary education. Minister of Advanced Education Demetrius Nicolaides said the province will provide $15 million over 3 years to help those who need it the most.
Each year for the next 3 years, the New Beginnings Bursary will provide 1,000 low-income students attending high-demand programs with a non-repayable bursary of $5,000 each to help cover the costs of education and other living expenses.
And speaking of education, more than $8 million in additional funding will be allocated for student transportation. The province is bringing back a program meant to give schools more fuel price certainty while diesel prices reach record highs. Government officials say the program will be enacted retroactively to March and will remain in place for the 2022-23 school year. The UCP says the move should provide an estimated average diesel price of $1.80 per liter. And Education Minister Adriana Lagrange says her government is committed to ensuring school boards and charter schools have predictable and sustainable transportation funding. Alberta health officials say they're making progress when it comes to treating cancer patients. Clinical trials for chimeric antigen receptor or CAR T cell therapy are showing good results for patients where chemo and radiation have stopped working. CAR T cell therapy genetically reprograms a person's immune cells to attack cancer cells in the body. The patient's T cells are extracted and in a lab are genetically modified and multiplied before being returned to the patient. This therapy is used to treat children and adults with specific types of leukemia and lymphoma. Health Minister Jason Copping says Alberta is the third province now offering this type of treatment. It's a continuation from a pilot project launched last year.
Now, just over a year ago, in April of 2021, we announced that the first patients were receiving the therapy. We're funding two different approaches, one using commercially produced CAR T cells and a made in Alberta trial using cells made right here at the U of A.
Copping says treatments will expand next year to Calgary and the Tom Baker Treatment Center, as well as the Alberta Children's Hospital. We'll be right back with more provincial news. Stay with us.
Leadership candidate Travis Toews literally picked the pockets of Albertans who have the least in our society and gave billions in giveaways to already profitable corporations.
The leader of Alberta's official opposition has apologized for her party's mistreatment of party volunteers. NDP leader Rachel Notley says she takes full responsibility and approved measures to address workplace concerns, including engaging a third party to investigate and resolve workplace respect and harassment complaints. Notley says she and all of the executive staff will take additional respectful workplace training. The change comes 2 weeks after a letter written to Notley in early March by 15 NDP constituency presidents outlined the mistreatment and bullying of party volunteers. Well, more and more Albertans are feeling the pinch in their wallets due to inflation. Those living on a fixed income may be feeling it even more, particularly since the province stopped adjusting compensation according to the cost of living. NDP finance critic Shannon Phillips and Marie Renault, MLA for St. Albert, were in Lethbridge calling on Travis Toews and other UCP leadership candidates to immediately return to the legislature and reverse their cuts to AISH, the assured income for the severely handicapped.
Leadership candidate Travis Toews literally picked the pockets of Albertans who have the least in our society and gave billions in giveaways to already profitable corporations. And at the same time, he froze benefits for people with disabilities, meaning their benefits don't keep pace with inflation.
So this ranges from people perhaps that Down syndrome, spinal cord injury, brain injury, stage 4 cancers, all kinds of disabilities. And let's be, people with disabilities and medical conditions have additional expenses that most of us do not.
There are currently around 70,000 Albertans who receive assured income for the severely handicapped benefit. The province announced it will be providing more support to Indigenous communities interested in establishing their own police services. Government officials say there will be also additional resources made available for existing Indigenous police services. Alberta Justice Minister Tyler Shandro says a grant will be made available for Indigenous communities looking to explore various options.
And that's why we're establishing a new grant which will offer up to $30,000 to Indigenous and municipal communities who want to explore different policing models and get the information that they need to choose the best path forward for them. We're also providing supplemental funding which will allow the province's 3 existing independent Indigenous police bodies, the Blood Tribe, Tsuut'ina Nation, and Lakeshore Regional Police Services, to hire a combined total of 15 new officers. And this additional workforce capacity will ensure that these police services are better positioned than ever to meet the needs of their communities.
Researchers at the University of Calgary have spent the past 7 years working on robots that can be deployed to help out during disasters. Officials say the biggest obstacle is developing artificial intelligence and the public being willing to accept the mechanical helpers.
We started this project about 7 years ago, and we have been working with this step by step, from creating legs, torsos, control system, navigation systems, also and many other things to be building this little by little. This can change locomotion style and go from walking to crawling to climbing based on the environment that they see. So right now it has sensors that uses to perceive the environment, create a 3D map of the space, and this robot computes how stable it is, what the geometrical architecture of the systems is, or the environment is, to decide what locomotion style to use.
Cities from across the province are set to host the 2022 Southern Alberta Summer Games. The event will also be held in Lethbridge with a variety of sports to choose from. Online registration is open to anyone who wishes to participate, and staff from the Lethbridge Sport Council say the games are important for the entire community.
So instead of the traditional games events, we were able to host things that we wouldn't normally host. So this year there's going to be the badminton, golf, climbing, horseshoes, Indigenous games, and sport photography. So some of those are events that you would traditionally see at a Southern Alberta Summer Games, but some of them aren't, and we've never been able to offer them before. So we thought it would be a great opportunity to offer those to not only the people participating, but also the organizations to host.
The games are taking place in July, and registrants will play for the chance to win medals in all the events. Alberta is one busy place right now. Of course, one of the main topics of conversation is the competition for political position and power. After the break, we will be talking with Dave Naylor, the news editor for the Western Standard, to see what he thinks is on the way for the people and the politicians of Alberta. Welcome back. What a week it's been here in Alberta. Among many things, we have the UCP leadership race, cabinet shuffles, and many looking to distance themselves from Ottawa. There was so much to talk about. This past Thursday, I met up with Dave Naylor, news editor of the Western Standard. Take a look. So Dave, there's so much going on. Number one, all the contenders for the leadership of the UCP. Dave, can we get your take on the frontrunners? There's been some big announcements this week.
Yes, a big announcement just this morning. Michelle Rempel-Garner, MP for Calgary Nose Hill, has decided not to throw her hat into the ring. A bit of a surprise. I thought she was going to. In a lengthy Substack post, she basically said her entrance would have caused too much friction within the caucus. We had an exclusive story this week that 13 caucus members, 13 MLAs, had voted no to allow her to have a special exemption to run. So she knew she was going to get into a bit of a
little bit of a battle,
a problem caucus. So she's decided not to run. That leaves Travis Taves, the former finance minister, Danielle Smith, the former Wild Rose leader and talk show host, and Brian Jean, former MP and now current UCP MLA, as the frontrunners. Poll out this week had Danielle Smith at 24%, Brian Jean at 23%. So they're clearly the two frontrunners. Travis Taves was trailing with 14%, and all the rest didn't even get anywhere close to 10%. So Danielle Smith has made a couple of major announcements this week. She says if she becomes premier, she'll introduce basically an Alberta Sovereignty Act that anything that Ottawa does that we don't like, we're just going to opt out of it. We don't like their new gun law, so we're just not going to do it. Her other statement is that she promises that she will never ever lock people down again, as we've just gone through the COVID pandemic. She will not under her leadership. Schools will remain open. Businesses will not be shut. Two very interesting and probably pretty popular things for UCP members to mull over there.
I know. What about anyone else on the outside that may actually be a legitimate contender? Can you think of anyone?
Well, I mean, Michelle Rempel-Garner was going to be that person.
Yeah.
The $175,000 entrance fee, for lack of a better word, is huge. That's we see a lot of people off, or people that make it. Some of the lesser run candidates. That's all their money is going to go to the entrance fees. They're not going to have any money left to campaign and get around Alberta, especially with gas at $2 a liter. So I don't see any major outsider coming in. Never say never, but in terms of maybe a business leader or something like that, I don't see it. I think what you see is basically what you're going to get.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you mentioned the cost to run, and of course we've talked about that before, the cost even just to get the opportunity to get in there and run. So in your opinion, Dave, where does that money come from and what happens to the funds after the race is over?
Well, you have to have some good fundraisers. Take a guy like Mayor Rock. He's a mayor of this small town. He doesn't have $175,000. So unless he's got, some big pocket advisors, make it. He says he will, but 25% of that is a refundable bond, for lack of a better word. So, if you get through the campaign without misbehaving, you'll get 25 grand back. The other 150 grand goes to run the leadership race. So it is just such an enormous chunk of cash. For example, one province away, the NDP are holding a leadership race there, and their entry fee is $4,000.
Wow.
So
quite a difference.
It's a bit of a difference, isn't it, Jeanette?
Thanks to Dave Naylor of the Western Standard for joining us from his office in Calgary. After the break, a story of changed lives in Calgary. Keep it right here.
We were helping folks under the bridges. We were helping people in Tent City. We went down to Skid Row in LA. And we were just dealing with whatever need was presented to us and finding ways that we could offer help. And help was simple.
Addictions, tent cities, and supervised injection sites seem to be on the rise and continue to challenge communities and families across Canada. One organization that's working to help those addicted is the Calgary Dream Centre. Earlier this week, I met with Executive Director Craig Hill to chat about the issues of addiction facing so many. First of all, maybe give us a snapshot of the history of the Calgary Dream Centre and what you're all about.
It was a little better than 20 years ago. There was a church in Calgary that had heard of something called the Los Angeles Dream Center that was needing people to come down and help them get off the ground. And we heard that invitation and we responded, and we found ourselves in LA, well outside of our comfort zone, doing things that we had never experienced. We were helping folks under the bridges. We were helping people in Tent City. We went down to Skid Row in LA, and we were just dealing with whatever need was presented to us and finding ways that we could offer help. And help was simple. It was sandwiches, it was clothing, it was letting folks know on the street that there was a place that was now open to help if they wanted help. And it was so impactful that we would regularly, this church in Calgary, would go down a few times a year. And as we would continue to see the impact and the fruitfulness, the vision was caught by the team, and they realized Calgary needs a dream center. And with that, well, sounds like a great idea, but how do we do this? Where do we do this?
Who are these people who come to you for help, and what kinds of problems are they typically dealing with?
The folks who come through our doors, this is not a cliche answer. They are truly the most everyday folks that you could expect to see. They are somebody's son, somebody's husband, brother, father. And we have gentlemen who come to us from very dire circumstance that they've lived on the streets for years, and others who have made decisions that have taken them down a path that they never fathomed that they would go down, and they are reaching out for help. So we have young men that are young adults, and we have folks that are senior in years and everything in between. We have well-educated, and we have those with no education because the truth is, addiction and homelessness, it's no respecter of persons.
Addiction doesn't discriminate, right? It can happen to absolutely anyone. You mentioned gentlemen. Is this open to only men then?
So it's men in our program, and we have at any given time here, we have a program that's available for up to 30 men for a 7-week program where they're here at the Dream Center facility. And then they're also able to, if they like, graduate into transitional housing, which is further space within this building that they're able to stay and get themselves settled and put a recovery plan in motion. And then even beyond that, we have homes throughout the city. We have a number of properties where a person can move into, stabilize, be safe, secure, and really get reestablished and reintegrated into society.
Now, Craig, a big part of recovery is finding a steady job, of course, and a stable home. So can you maybe explain how you help these individuals get jobs and how the Calgary Dream Center's house settings work?
You're right. See, we're much more than just trying to get them clean for a few days or the X on the calendar. It is about restoring them to productivity and to their families. So part of what's happening through their 7-week program are dealing with life skills and career skills and dealing with those, helping them with very practical things about, this may sound pretty base, but oftentimes they come with no identification. They have no means of being reestablishing credit or cleaning up those things that are in the closet, the credit issues or things with the police, and all that sort of stuff needs to be addressed in order for you to take that next step. And our case managers on a weekly basis are having appointments and resourcing the gentleman in that direction. And then one other thing that we're really proud to be able to do is in the last little while, we have opened here at the Dream Center a thrift store. And we're able to have some of our men or women volunteer or serve at the thrift store. We have a cafe right here in the building that gives opportunity for folks to participate in. We've got staff positions that we make available to those who have graduated. So we really see, it's incredible. You can come from a broken place and we'll help you to move into career and stability.
We need to take a short break, but we'll be right back. Stay with us.
We have other provinces here in Canada that there's actually fines. People can contact the police, take the license plate number down, and people are issued very hefty fines for throwing cigarettes and stuff outside their windows.